Hey guys, tonight we travel to a place where time moves like molasses under the desert sun, and history, oddly enough, feels refreshingly cool. Picture this. It's 500 BCE, and you're trudging across the scorched plains of the Persian Empire. Sand crunches under your worn sandals. Your robes stick to your skin like wet parchment. And even the camels look like they're about to file a heat complaint. The temperature? Somewhere between don't touch the rocks, and you probably won't survive this. But then, just as your vision starts to ripple with the heat, you spot something. Men in fine linen, servants rushing with bowls of something glistening. Wait, is that ice? Are they eating ice cream? Yes, they are. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I'm always curious to know who else is lying in the dark, drifting with me through the past. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself near the edge of one of Persia's great cities, perhaps Susa or Ecbatana, where the sun rules with unforgiving clarity. The buildings are tall, boxy, and almost colorless from dust and heat. Yet inside the palace walls, something miraculous is happening. Ice, actual, cold, frosty ice, is being served in delicate bowls with flecks of crushed fruit and hints of rose water. You, a curious traveler, or perhaps an assistant to a merchant, are offered a taste. It cools your tongue, numbs your teeth, and makes your eyebrows rise in disbelief. How did this happen? How did people in one of the hottest parts of the world, long before the discovery of electricity or even basic fans, manage to enjoy something that you associate with freezers and supermarkets? Here's the thing about ancient Persians. They were brilliant engineers and deeply motivated by comfort. When you live in a region where the sun doesn't set so much as it melts, you learn quickly that luxury means staying cool. And if you're royalty, well, you don't just settle for shade. You demand frozen treats. We often think of ancient history as dirty and sweaty, people fanning themselves with palm leaves and grumbling through dusty summers. But in Persia, the elite were having none of that. If you had money, you had access to some of the most advanced passive cooling technologies in the pre-modern world. Ice was harvested in the winter, stored in vast underground domes, and rationed through the blistering months with the same reverence as gold. Because honestly, what's more valuable than a moment of cool in a world of heat? And this wasn't some one-off stunt by a rich king to show off. It was a whole system, refined, respected, and replicated across the empire. the storage facilities, called yakchals, which literally means ice pit, were marvels of architecture. Imagine a clay dome that looks like a massive upside-down cupcake, standing out against the horizon like a misplaced moon. Inside, thick insulation and brilliant design kept winter's harvest intact for months. Historians still argue whether the methods were entirely local innovations or adapted from earlier Mesopotamian experiments with snow storage. But what's certain is the Persians perfected it. Even more remarkable, these ice houses weren't powered by magic enslaved ice wizards or some lost crystal of frost. No, they used simple physics, evaporation, insulation, and nighttime cooling to keep ice from melting in places where your sandals could fry an egg. It's the kind of cleverness that makes you shake your head in sleepy admiration. The yakchal was more than a refrigerator. It was a social symbol, a spiritual metaphor, and, let's be honest, an ancient flex. Imagine inviting someone to your home and serving them ice cream in 480 BCE. That's like casually offering Wi-Fi in a medieval village. Oh, this, just a little something I keep cold using the desert and some geometry. You walk through the palace courtyard, and everything feels calculated for calm. The fountains bubble softly. The trees are positioned to maximize shade, and the air seems to swirl just slightly cooler in certain corridors. You begin to realize that this civilization didn't just react to its environment, it sculpted comfort into the very bones of its architecture. The real kicker, this wasn't all just for kings and queens. Over time, the techniques filtered down to merchants, to wealthy artisans, and sometimes, just sometimes, to the people. On holy days, the city square might host public feasts where ice-cooled drinks were passed around like tiny miracles.
Tonight, your sleepy mind starts to wander. What else did these people figure out that we've forgotten? Is there an old engineer somewhere, buried under the desert, grinning in his grave because his ice dome still exists today? Spoiler, some do. That's right. You can still visit ancient yakchals in modern Iran. They don't chill ice anymore, but they chill tourists with their audacity. You hear a distant flute. Someone's fanning the king. Somewhere a camel grunts in the heat, jealous of the royal sorbet. And as you rest in the palace shade, with a spoonful of chilled pomegranate syrup melting on your tongue, you know one thing for sure. The desert might scorch your feet. But Persia figured out how to freeze your dessert. The Persian sun doesn't just rise, it attacks. You wake up sweating under linen sheets, the scent of sun-baked clay already thick in the air. The city hasn't even stirred yet, but the temperature is climbing like a cat burglar scaling a palace wall. You step outside and squint into the bright white morning, already feeling like a raisin in training. The only thing moving faster than the heat is your desire to find shade. And you're not alone in this struggle. The king, yes, that king, the one with the embroidered robe and a thing for beard oil, has a summer problem. The palace is too hot, his wine is warm, his servants sluggish, and his dessert, well, his dessert is supposed to arrive with a delicate frost on top, not looking like a sad puddle of regret. So what do you do when you're the most powerful man in a scorching empire and you simply refuse to sweat? You command your best minds, engineers, priests, astrologers, and that one eccentric guy who always talks to his goats, to fix the problem. "Make me cold," the king says, and he's not asking nicely. Historians still argue whether this royal push toward climate control started with Cyrus the Great or a later Achaemenid ruler. But one thing is clear. From the very top of the imperial pyramid came a command that would change architecture and food culture for centuries. This wasn't about luxury. This was about dominion. If you can tame the elements, you can tame the world. You walk through the royal court, where plans are unrolling like scrolls across the marble floor. A scholar explains night air cooling. Another suggests redirecting mountain snow. A third proposes digging deep, very deep, into the earth. Everyone's talking at once, and it's all in pursuit of one thing: keeping the king's sherbet from turning into fruit soup. The palace cooks are sweating too, figuratively and literally. Their finest chilled delicacies are collapsing under the heat before they can even reach the royal table. A date pudding ruined yesterday, a saffron cucumber concoction this morning. One poor chef served something with steam rising off it and hasn't been seen since. You, standing off to the side with your dust-covered sandals and half-melted water jug, are beginning to understand something. This isn't just about ice cream. This is a battle between empire and nature. At night, you watch as teams of builders mark out areas outside the city for large, mysterious domes. They start digging pits, some of them more than 10 meters deep. Others bring in clay, carefully mixed and fired to become the insulating walls of what will be known as yakhchals. The word itself has a satisfying snap to it, like cracking open a frozen treat. Yak means ice. Chow means pit. Simple, functional, extremely Persian. Still, people in the markets laugh at the idea. They think they can store ice. One vendor snorts, waving a fig at no one in particular. Next, they'll try bottling moonlight, but others are watching quietly, curiously. If it works, it could change everything. And the king is watching too, from his high tower shaded by parasols and white curtains. He wants progress. There's talk of punishment for delays, reward for success. His feet apparently have been dipped in lukewarm rose water, and he is not amused. So the pressure's on, and the engineers, they're getting clever. One group proposes building walls that curve away from the sun. Another suggests filling the new domes during the winter months with snow brought from the distant mountains. We'll pack it tight, they say, wrap it in straw, seal it in blocks. But how to get snow here? The mountains are far, and the roads are, let's say, not great. So now enter the camel caravans. Long lines of shaggy animals begin to move slowly across the desert, each one laden with bundles wrapped like funeral offerings. Except these bundles are filled with snow, hauled from mountain passes under the dim guidance of the stars. You haven't seen this many camels since that time you got stuck behind one in the city gate for 4 hours. Each night, the camels march. Each morning, they arrive steaming with sweat and snow. It's absurd, poetic, and brilliant. You sit on a sand dune one evening, watching the whole thing unfold. The domes are rising like alien mushrooms. The pits are filling with hard-packed snow and slabs of early ice. Workers layer reeds, bricks, and clay. Others seal the domes tight, and all the while the air stays hot and thick, as if daring the builders to succeed. And then they do. The first real trial happens quietly. A small bowl of saffron sorbet is prepared at night using the stored ice. It's kept cool until morning. When the sun rises, the dish is placed before the king. He lifts it with suspicion, takes a bite, pauses, then smiles. Somewhere nearby, a potter faints with relief. You'd think that's where the story ends. King gets his ice cream, kingdom rejoices, but it's only just begun, because now